Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your especially spectacular spring hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. A new season, a bunch of new shows, you know what that means, it's sneak peek time. And of course, after that, we'll dish out our first review of a series from winter 2019, and of course, we picked the second season of one of our favorites, Mob Psycho 100. The second season live up to the first? Did it maybe even surpass it? Well, if you want to find out, you gotta stick around. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Alright, time for everyone's favorite segment, the Seek Meek. That's a wild assumption I'm making here. We don't love rapid fire mini reviews of shows that just started airing. Anyway, so we'll rattle down all of the stuff we saw, which is pretty evened out this time around. John got 10 shows, I got 10 shows. But they're all distributed a bit differently between our three different sections, which are the Nopes, shows that we instantly dropped. The Maybes, which are shows that might have potential but also might lose us on the way. And the Keepers, which are shows that we're definitely gonna follow unless something really bad happens. So yeah, we're gonna start with the Nopes, but first we're of course cover part 2 of Attack on Titan season 3, but that hasn't started airing yet, so not much to say about it, especially since we'll save our review of the entirety of season 3 until the second part will have aired.
Yeah, the first episode of part 2 isn't supposed to air until I think the 28th?
28th or 29th of April.
Yeah, and it's supposed to only be 10 episodes this time around, I think, so...
Which could mean that there's going to be a lot of budget in those couple of episodes, and it's going to look really good, so let's see.
Well, I mean, the first part of season 3 did look pretty fucking good, too, so...
Dude. Yeah, I can't wait. And of course, that is an instant recommendation from us to watch, without a doubt. We can say that much. But yeah, let's start with premieres that didn't, impress us. At least not in a positive way. John, why don't you tell us your first nope?
My first one was Hitori Bocchi no Marumaru Seikatsu.
Yes.
Which, it's cute. It's whatever. It's about this girl named Hitori Bocchi, and she suffers from social anxiety. Who doesn't? She's not good at talking to people, and she takes pretty extreme actions to avoid interacting with people. She's surprisingly good at that. She gets cramps when she overexerts herself, gets full of herself when she's alone, and she vomits when exposed to extreme tension and often comes up with harebrained plans. Now she's entering middle school, and her only friend Yawada Kai, Jesus Christ, is attending a different school, and this leaves Bocchi alone, surrounded by new classmates with whom she must make friends before Kai will talk to her again. This is the definition of browbeating your character's mannerisms and personalities into you. And it's okay, all right. I don't think you need to name them so on the nose to get your themes across.
Yeah. I mean, is that all that is that there is to this show? Because that seems to be the problem here.
Yeah. As far as I can tell, it is. And I was interested to check this show out because I like to look through production credits before the new shows start, and I was like, oh, hey, it's being scripted by my boy Juki Hanada. Sure, I'll check it out. And then I started watching it, and I was like, yeah, this feels like it's going to be really one note, and I don't think that's going to be his fault. I think it's the fault of the source material and the fact that I won't be able to get out of my head that, the names are literally lonely girl, gentle girl, straightforward girl. Okay, all right, come on. Okay. I got you. We understand. Terrible. Yeah, and it feels like if you, for some reason, want to watch a show that reminds you of your painful middle or high school life and your trouble with anxiety that might remain to this day, I think you can do much better, for example, with Watamote, which is probably a much better show that tackles those subjects. Watamote? Yeah, Watamote, the manga, also apparently took a real turn. So I don't know if a lot of that really remains, but you know.
I should get to reading that because I doubt we'll get another adaptation of that since the anime was no success at all. Just
Yeah,
a
no way.
big flop, which is a shame because I loved it. I really loved that show, but yeah, you know.
It was one of those shows that I watched and I cringed and I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh God, no, no, no.
oh
This
yeah,
is it me, fam.
yeah. It's horrible. At least some parts, not all of them.
Yeah.
But you know, there's some things that are eerily familiar, and it's like, ugh, I
So I
can't.
mean, Hitori Bocchi no blah, 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 is cute,
Mhm.
but it's like, I get what you're going for. You don't have to hammer it home. I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. Sometimes cute isn't enough.
Yeah.
All right, my first and only nope this time is a show we actually mentioned in our review of Gridman last episode, which is the new Ultraman show on Netflix. And
Really?
yeah, you know, you could have seen that coming, considering that this is a 3D CG show, and a show needs to do a lot to win me over when it's CG. It needs to look really good, needs to be really well directed. This is not.
Ooh.
This is one of the ugliest pieces of trash I've seen in a while. Like, I tolerated it for a whole minute, and then I hit the pause button, the stop button, close the player, threw that thing in the trash. Well, I can't because Netflix is on my TV, so that would be a dumb idea. But Jesus Christ, no, that show looks like ass to me, at least. I think maybe some people don't mind it, but that's exactly the kind of CG I hate. Weird, emotionless, dead-eyed robot people that take me completely out of the show. Low frame rate, everything. It looks like complete garbage. And yeah, I can't sit through a whole season of that. Nope. Not even a whole episode. So there you go. Fuck that noise. If you like Ultraman, like if you're a big fan, you might want to check it out. But otherwise I can't recommend it. Especially since, from what I've heard, it seems to kind of deviate from the classic show. It's not really about Ultraman fighting kaiju. It's basically Ultraman versus Ultraman stuff, and really dark and violent, and doesn't seem to have a lot of fun with its material, but takes itself way too seriously. So, you know, the Netflix formula, I guess. But so I don't think there's much to love in there, and the visuals don't do it any favors either. So yeah, that's a nope.
That's unfortunate.
It happens.
My next nope was Midnight Occult Civil Servants.
Oh, that's a maybe for me.
Yeah, there's some shows I'm not sure if they're nope or if they're maybe.
Yeah,
but
they're bordering.
The thing is, I also can't watch like 20 shows per season.
That's true. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I like the concept around this. It's about this guy, Miyako Arata, who joins this Shinjuku ward office thinking he's got a normal civil servant job. But, turns out he's dealing with spirits and all sorts of stuff and trying to keep them from massacring each other. And he apparently has the power to hear or to understand and speak with the spirits, and that's, the big hook, and that it's really interesting, and I could see it going to some cool places, but it just feels kind of flat.
Yeah. First of all, he's the only one who can talk to the occult creatures.
Yeah.
Like, all his colleagues are like, "What the fuck? What are you doing? What
are you doing? What do you mean you can understand?
They're totally freaked out. It's like, okay, that's interesting. And just the whole world they created for the show is interesting. The idea of a supernatural CSI show, which this agency kind of is interesting as well to me. I like my procedurals, I guess. But it's cool. Like you said, the setup is interesting enough. But yeah, there has not happened that much interesting as I've watched like 2 episodes. It's like they set up a kind of deeper mystery here and an antagonist that appears in the 2nd episode. And maybe something interesting will result from that. But aside from that, it's a bit lackluster, especially in the visual department. This show looks like total butt.
Thanks, Leiden Films.
Jesus, yeah, that should have been a giveaway, but I mean, come on. They sometimes dish out good stuff too, but Jesus Christ, this show looks bad. Holy fuck. Woof.
I don't know if I've seen a studio as inconsistent in recent years as Leiden films, and I say that armed with the knowledge that Studio Dean shows look, not great, but Dean is consistent in the fact that most of their work looks like the fattest part of my ass.
Yeah. But Jesus Christ, yeah. But Light Films. I mean, the other thing we have recently reviewed from them was Boarding School Juliet and Hanebado, and both those shows looked at least good. I think Hanebado looked even fantastic in certain aspects. So yeah, and then we got fucking the other thing from them that looked really bad was Heroic Legend of Arslan and Berserk. They also, well, they didn't really do the animation for that, but at least I think some of the production work went to them. Anyway.
And Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka.
That's
moments.
Yeah, but still, that's also a very mediocre, if not bad-looking show. So it's like, what? Okay, I guess I don't know if the personnel fluctuation is very high for them, and they only got freelancers, and sometimes they get good quality people, and sometimes they don't. But yeah, you could basically do a coin flip before watching a Light Film show, apparently. It could go either way. Could look really good or like total ass. And in this case, it looks like total ass. So, yeah, that's a downer. But maybe the story goes some places. I like the cast. I like the characters. Maybe the story goes some places too that is interesting enough that keeps me engaged. I'm going to give it another episode and then see where that leaves me.
I might give it one more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. I guess that covers our nopes.
Well, I had one more.
Oh, you had one more. Then I miscounted. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
No problem. The last one I had was Cinderella 9.
Okay.
So when Ariha Tsubasa enters Rigahama Municipal High School and learns that there's no baseball club, gasp! She starts up the girls' baseball club on her own, and drawn to the club are girls who have never played baseball before, who have played it once before but quit, and girls who are constantly tackling their own challenges.
A league of their own, you might say.
I wanted to make that joke, and you just stole it from me.
Sorry.
You rat bastard.
Was easy prey. I'm sorry.
But
great minds think alike.
True that.
Yeah.
And fools seldom differ. So apparently this is based off of I don't know if it's upcoming or if it's out already, everyone's favorite source material, a mobile game. But the show seems nice. It seems cute and uplifting, and like, it's about overcoming challenges and making new friends and finding out what you are and aren't good at, and discovering what it is you want to do. And it's very wholesome, I think is the right word to describe it. And I respect it for that. The production values aren't there.
That seems to be a trend this time.
And I'm really disappointed by that because it's animated by TMS.
Oh, well, we got another TMS show this season that looks really good. So I guess all the budget went there, maybe?
I guess. And I mean, I guess the show would be fine because, it has some really positive themes behind it, and that's good. But there's also no shortage of baseball anime this season because you also have Mix and Ace of the Diamond 2, which should really be called Ace of the Diamond 3, thanks.
Oh, right. That was that weird split season. Yeah, okay. I only watched like a couple of episodes of Ace of Diamond because I like sports anime, but that show kind of expects you to already be familiar with baseball, which I'm not, and doesn't explain anything really, and the main character is kind of annoying, so...
Yeah, and I mean, between the three shows, this has the lowest barrier to entry.
Yeah,
because
it sounded like it.
Because, again, Ace of the Diamond is on its third season. Mix is a spin-off of another work called Touch, so,
which is super old, yeah. Touch is
it's like
from the 80s
mid-80s?
or 70s. Yeah. Very
So-
renowned, people love Touch, and I think the guy who made that basically makes nothing else. He's known for baseball romance, slice of life stuff or something.
Hey, he made his name off it.
Yeah. But it seems to be very good. It's just okay, this is a follow-up to that, and maybe you want to check out the older work first. Yeah, you're right. So,
I mean, I feel fine kind of pushing Cinderella 9 to the side, but I respect it for how positive its themes and its story is.
Yeah.
So that's it for my notes. How about for the maybes?
Yeah, let's get to it. My first maybe is Fairy Gone, which is a show set on an alternate Earth in kind of a World War One/2-ish setting. But names all changed around and everything. And it's set after this like war of unification, where battles were waged with stand/persona-like beings that are called fairies in this show. And the people who can handle them are called fairy soldiers, naturally. And yeah, it's set after the 9 years after the war, and it's about a bunch of ex-fairy soldiers who work for a government organization called Dorothea, who hunt down criminals who are trying to capitalize on the fairy weapons remaining after the war. So basically, kind of a FBI mafia war story, maybe, just in kind of unusual setting. And I thought the setup was pretty interesting, and it's a PA Works show, so we'll see. It's
well, it'll at least look good.
Yeah, that's the thing. For a PA Works show, this kind of looks a bit janky at times. Like sadly, the fairies are CG and not good CG. It's like this. I didn't look it up, but the design and the movement and everything looks eerily familiar to what I saw in the new Berserk TV show. So I wonder if that company handles the CG for this show. But yeah, it doesn't look good. The artwork is great. The backdrops are gorgeous. Like the general 2D artwork in this is good. It's just that this 3D CG is not good, and the actual 2D animation is also a bit janky. Like for a PA Works show, this doesn't look that stellar.
That's surprising.
Yeah, for me too. But usually with original PA Works shows, we get a bit antsy when it comes to the story, because we got Sirius the Jaeger, which started pretty promisingly, but then kind of fell flat on its ass by the end. And then we got Irozuku, which also wasn't great, pretty much from the get-go, and kind of standard stuff. So yeah, that's usually where my worry lies then. But this is from the author of Grimgar Fantasy and Ash, which was a pretty interesting, not really isekai, but kind of isekai story. Or let's say it was set in a fantasy-esque world, which kind of put a very realistic spin on the struggles of an RPG party. And not like, shock and awe Goblin Slayer bullshit, but no, this is like really to the ground. Okay, these guys, they have to get their job assignments, their classes, they have to do the daily quests, otherwise they will fucking starve. And not, haha, oh my god, I will starve like in Konosuba, but no. This is a matter of survival, right? You have to get your job, and you have to and they, have to become a party and everything. And that was pretty interesting. I didn't stick with it until the end for one reason or another. I dropped off it, but like the setup and and the execution was really good. And maybe this one will also have something strong. I mean, setup is good enough and interesting enough. The characters are pretty cool. I just can't really estimate where it's gonna go from this point. If there's something interesting beneath, there is some promising stuff, but I really can't tell if this will deliver on the things that it's setting up. So we'll see. There's enough good stuff in here that could keep me around, but I'm not sure yet. Yeah, what's your first maybe?
You might be surprised that it's a maybe, but I only say that because I'm not sure how it'll carry itself. But Senko, the always helpful fox.
Oh yeah, I heard about this show.
It's all about this overstressed, overworked, overtired salaryman named Nakano. And his life is suddenly turned upside down when he comes home from work late one night. And there's this cute as a button little fox girl in his apartment making him dinner.
Hime, the mascot of Crunchyroll. No?
Not quite.
Okay. Could have been, I don't know, maybe co-production or something.
No, this is based off of a manga that came before.
All right.
But yes, Senko is this cute little fox god spirit who's there to cook and clean and help lighten the burden on Nakano's life and take away his stress. And it's really cute, and it's the kind of wish fulfillment that I think a lot of millennials would hope for.
Well, So you said also it's a salary man, so maybe it's kind of catered to a different audience even.
Well, he's not older. He's
okay.
Yeah. This show is cute. I don't know how it's going to carry itself, though. Apparently there's got to be some semblance of a story outside of what we saw in the first 2 episodes, but I'm not 100% certain. But for now, it at least feels very comfy and cozy.
Yeah, it sounds like in Yashike anime that's supposed to be comfort food for you when you get home from a stressful day of work or something. Like the character in the show, I guess. So.
Yeah, because I mean, they sort of hint at there's something going on because you can see like the despair kind of encroaching on Nakano's like back because you got this black like blah, 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 coming from him. So maybe there's something with that. Also, I mean, fluffy foxtails are strong.
No doubt. I heard there's like this weird segment at the end of each episode where the character directly talks to the viewer and asks them about their day or something.
Yeah, it's if the show wasn't self-insert already, holy shit.
Yeah. Feels like it's kind of a almost like, I don't know, one of those I don't know, virtual girlfriend games or something, at least in the end segment there.
Yeah, that segment is kind of like...
It's fine, it's just unusual. I haven't heard about any show doing that until now.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are other shows that tried to carry themselves on that sort of like... I can't remember the name of it, but there was one that tried to carry itself that way. I think I watched the first episode and I was like, no, this is too much even for me. But I don't know, maybe it'll turn out to be more than what it's showing off. Maybe give it another episode or two. We'll see.
Yeah.
What is your next maybe?
My next maybe is RobiHachi, which is...
I agree.
Which is a funny science fiction body comedy about a fuck-up and an ex-loan shark enforcer who team up to eventually make their way to the promised planet of Kandar. I see what you did there, anime. All while being chased by a bunch of crazy criminals and hoodlums. Yeah, it's fun, it's colorful, the cast is sympathetic, but I don't know if the goofy antics are enough to keep me engaged for long. So we'll see. Like, there are enough references in there, and there's enough funny hijinks and stuff like that. And visually, the show also looks pretty good, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think this could be cool. I just don't know. It seems like they're gonna visit, like, a different kind of weird planet or tourist paradise in each given episode, and then have their adventures there, and that could be fun. I just wonder if there's enough substance in there to keep me engaged. I can't tell yet, but the two main characters are fun.
Yeah, I mean, the dumb hijinks they get into are great, but it'll be a sight to see if it can carry itself.
Yeah, I laughed out loud at the finale of the first episode, where like they get in the fucking bay of that spaceship. I don't even know why one of them has that, and then it's fucking Mazinger in there. It's like, what?
He's a Krieger.
Yeah. Sure he is. Yeah, ridiculous, but yeah, it's definitely fun. I just don't know if there's enough other stuff, engaging stuff in there to make me stay around. So we'll see.
Tomokazu Sugita as an intergalactic loan shark is
gangbuster casting.
Is there something magical about that?
I also like, I forgot his name, the voice actor of the main character, or one of the main characters, who also voices Zoro in One Piece. I think it's a very inspired choice. So there you go. What is your next maybe?
My next, and I think it's my last maybe, is...
Oh, already? Okay.
Yes. How many do you have left?
2.
Okay. Is AFTERLOST.
Oh, yeah, that's also my next one.
Okay. So one day, a city suddenly disappears, and Takuya, a professional by the contract courier and lone wolf, meets Yuki, the only survivor from the city's extinction. The two rely on a message from Yuki's father, who is heard to be missing, and head toward the disappeared city, Lost.
Hmm.
I'm going to stop there because there's so many things about this show that are just like I feel like I've already watched this.
Well, it's based on a mobile game, so
That too.
Mm.
I don't know. It seems like it has at least good enough production values because some of the action sequences look pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
some
some are more
show.
janky. Yeah, some are more janky. Like, I don't know if it's all the CG. I think the CG even looks good in part. Not necessarily like they have like this scene where they drive on a motorcycle. I think on a highway, and the scenery passing by looks really bare bones. Like, does not look that good. But the rest, like the action choreography and everything in that show looks pretty damn good. So yeah.
Also, apparently, certain people have stands, so it's a JoJo reference.
Of course. Yeah, JoJo's everywhere these days.
But I'm not sure about this show, man.
Yeah, me neither. I've only watched one episode. That was fine. I mean, there was a big twist, I guess, at the end, but though I'm pretty sure that's not going to stick. It looks interesting, at least for a mobile game adaptation, but that also could mean that the story is not going to go anywhere interesting. Yeah. So we'll see. I'll give it another 1 or 2 episodes and make my final decision. But it could be a fun action thing.
Fair enough. So what you got next?
My last maybe is Sarazanmai, which is the new show by Kunihiko Ikuhara, the guy behind Revolutionary Girl Utena, Mawaru, Penguin Drum, and Yurikuma Arashi. And if you are familiar with at least one of those shows, you will get exactly from this show what you are probably expecting. The rest of you will probably be weirded out quite a lot. So this is the story, quote unquote, is about a bunch of boys who come across the Prince of Kappa accidentally, and who promptly turns them into Kappa as well, to help him recover some things called Shiriko Dama, which I think are lost feelings of people or something, from Kappa zombies. So the boys need to do that to be eventually transformed back into normal human beings again. And as Kappa do, they take those Shiriko Damas from the zombies by pulling them out of their butts. Because that's the myth I think about Kappa. It's like they extract human souls by ripping them out of their asses, and that's just what happens in this show. Pretty visually explicit, actually. And that is just as weird and gross as it sounds. Maybe too gross for some people. I didn't really mind it. It's not like photorealistic stuff, but, your imagination fills enough different coloring and everything aside. You know what's happening there. So it's like, okay, that might be too much for some people, but it didn't really put me off. It was mostly funny. And aside from that, this is a gorgeous show. It's animated by Studio Mappa. Studio Mappa unleashes their kappa, so to speak. And I'm sorry. But yeah, like I said, if you don't know what Kunihiko Ikuhara usually does, it's like his storytelling is mostly done through visual analogies and metaphors than to like coherent, straightforward plots. So you have to pay attention or it will all feel like unrelated nonsense to you. Like a lot of scenes feel like non sequiturs or something, and stuff keeps happening and it's like, wait, where did that come from? Why is this happening? What the fuck? Where am I? Where are these people doing? Kappa suddenly? What? What is happening? Monsters, zombies, what? Assholes. Yeah. It seems like a big giant whirlwind of nonsense, but there's like, even if you pay just a little bit attention, there's already enough subtextual messaging going on that gives you a clue to what that show is about. And I think on a base level, I already get what is happening here, but I wonder if the other shoe will drop fast enough to hold my interest, or if I'll just get lost in all the possibly obtuse subtextual stuff and the imagery and things like that. It looks interesting enough. It's clearly probably the most different show this season, like the most out of the ordinary thing in general that you will see maybe ever, because so much in that show is something that you probably have never seen in anime before. And like I said, aside from the gross butt stuff, it's very visually appealing. So yeah, I don't know if I can wholeheartedly recommend this, and like I said, I'm not really sure if I'd stick with it either, but if you are looking for something different, this is probably your go-to or would be your go-to show this season, because it's definitely different. I just don't know if it can hold my interest. I bounced off like the two other Ikuhara shows I checked out before. I haven't checked out Utena, but I checked out Penguin Drum and Yurikuma when they aired, at least 1 or 2 episodes, and I was like, wait, what is happening here? I don't get it. So
I tried watching Penguin Drum and I was like, but I would still like to go back and watch Utena. I mean, you could say a lot of things about Ikuhara, but you can't not call him creative, because holy shit.
Yeah, this is, if you're looking for some artsy visuals, like someone making full use of the possibilities and the tools of animation to show you something that is not necessarily possible in live action or on a still in a still page. Ikuhara does this every time. And so this show is definitely at least something interesting to look at. The content, though, might put a lot of people off. I don't know, or might not keep them around because you maybe don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting show, at least in a visual aspect. And I think on a subtextual level, on a content level as well, it's just like you need to really invest yourself. You really need to actually watch the show, maybe read up on some of the stuff, maybe try to figure out some of the visual metaphors in there. I mean, some of them are pretty damn obvious, some are not so much maybe, and yeah, you might get lost. But it's definitely one of the most interesting shows this season, without a doubt. We'll see if that is enough to keep me around. So, all right, then let's continue with our last section, The Keepers. John, why don't you take the lead?
The first keeper, it probably shouldn't be, is One Punch Man Season 2.
Yeah, it's the big bummer this season.
Yeah.
Which was kind of, at least after seeing the first trailer. But even before that, when it was made known that the whole production crew basically of this show changed, it changed studios, the director is not the same, a lot of the animators are not the same.
I think the only two crew that are still there are the composer and the writer. The director's different. It's a different animation studio. It's JC staff, and oh my god, they have been so mismanaged over the past 2 years. Oh, I was really hoping, because they were getting a lot of backing from Bandai Namco for this, that it would look good. The first episode looked all right. It looked
fine.
It looked passable.
Yeah.
The second episode was
yeah,
it was
rough. I was like, in the first episode, it was like, what you get when you are really looking forward to a movie or something, and it's like, oh, this doesn't look too bad. This is fine, right? This is okay, right?
Yeah.
And deep down, you already know, this is probably not gonna work out in the end, and I'll come around on this in a bad way, and yeah, and then the second episode rolled around, and I was like, oh god, oh no.
This is a show that I know we will both watch, but we will not enjoy.
Well,
the enjoyment will be knocked down a few pegs.
It will be hampered. Yes, I mean, and you would say, well, you guys are the most superficial pieces of shit on the planet. The writing is still good, right? And it's like, yes, sure.
Yeah, because it's the same writer, so that quality will be there. But it's not going to have the presentation it had before, because Madhouse called in a million fucking favors to make the show look consistently amazing from beginning to end.
True that.
And this is just going to be...
Yeah, this is... And, the writing might still be good, but a lot of the stuff, especially the jokes, also suffer from the decreased presentation quality. Because, you got a lot of... In the old show, in the old show, I say. In the first season, you had like a lot of snappy cuts, a lot of sudden short animation, bursts of animation and Sakuga moments that really highlighted some of the jokes, some of the weird developments, some of the like gross out humor and stuff like that. Like really gave that its punch, like its power, and made it like made those jokes and those funny moments really sing. There's nothing in this new season that does that. You get a lot of slow pans, camera pans. You get your shots, reverse shots. You get a lot of talking heads. So basically, the only enjoyment you can get is from the characters themselves and the occasionally well-written dialogue. But everything aside, the visual gags, the fights, the aesthetics, everything looks so fucking bland in the second season, so boring, so lazy. It's a real disappointing step down from the first season. And of course, like you said, million favorites first season. Like the first season was a masterpiece, was like at least on a visual basis alone. And you maybe couldn't expect the second season look that good again, especially after the studio change. But at least like reaching something like that level of quality occasionally, and I know we've already seen 2 episodes, but this looks like the vision is not there. Like there's just not the personnel there, like not the creative force behind this one that it was behind the first season that made it work. And I don't think that this is a budget issue. That is an issue of the people behind it, of the people responsible for the work. And I think it's just not the same kind of creative force this time around, and that is noticeable at every fucking corner of this production, and it's a shame. I was really looking forward to 100 season 2. Goddamn, I already lowered my expectation after the announcement, after the first trailer, but now I lowered them even more, and I'm still not sure if I'm not gonna be disappointed again. So yeah, this is just a big bummer and a shame. And yeah, like John said, we're gonna watch it because we wouldn't know how the story continues. But this is gonna be kind of torture because the first season was so good and this just isn't. This is not gonna be that good. It might have its moments, definitely. Saitama is still cool, Genos is still cool, but everything else that was great in the first season doesn't seem to be great anymore. So yeah, it's a shame.
I wonder what percentage of that is because Shingo Natsume was busy with Boogie Pop and others at the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard. The thing is, it's hard to point fingers at a single person with any kind of production. And you can't. I don't know. It's just a lot of things seem like they went really wrong. Even just going directly from the first episode to the second. It was like the house just fell apart that you tried to build.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about it in detail when we actually get to the review and to in detail what doesn't work in this show, in this season. So yeah, look forward to that, I guess.
God, and like I said, it's just such a disappointment because JC staff used to, they kind of went back and forth, but their work used to be a lot more consistent. And it really sort of felt like around the time of like the second half of the third season of Food Wars, they started seem to be falling off a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe hopefully they'll be able to, regain their footing, but some of their shows of theirs that I've watched since then have been really rough too.
It's a shame.
And we'll get to talk about one of them this season. Prepare yourselves.
Looking forward to that, I guess. All right.
So, what's your next keeper?
That was one of the most negative keeper segments we ever had, at least in the beginning. Let's make this positive again.
Yes.
So, my next keeper is a little show called Fruits Basket.
Yeah.
Which is about a young girl named Toru, who, after her mom dies, decides to live in a tent in the woods to not be a burden to her grandfather, who is the only one who would take her in, because apparently all the other family members are giant assholes. One day, she stumbles upon the estate of the esteemed Soma family, which is like this apparently big family with many sub-branches and a lot of history, very powerful, very wealthy. And due to certain circumstances, she ends up living with 2, later 3, the Soma boys under one roof. The problematic thing here, all the Soma family members are cursed and turn into their respective zodiac animal from the year they were born in. Whenever they are hugged or shoved, I'm not really sure, not really clear on that. Whenever they are hugged or shoved by the opposite sex. So yeah, you can imagine where to what kind of problems this might lead. To very funny ones, I guess. And yeah, this on paper, this sounds like a pretty cliche reverse harem setting, which would usually not be up my alley at all. Mm-hmm. But I know that Fruits Basket is actually more of an emotionally gripping character study underneath than the hijinksy romantic comedy romp it appears to be at first glance. So if there's a show that defines the term more to it than meets the eye, besides Transformers, of course, it's this one. And yeah, this one already got an old adaptation in the early 2000s, I think, that looked like ass. It was an early Digipaint show, so whoosh, don't put that into your DVD player these days, unless you want to get eye cancer. Ooh. And which focused more on the comedy stuff. And if I remember correctly, the author of the original manga hated that one. But
really?
This time, yeah. But this time she seems to be heavily involved with the production. So this ought to be much more faithful to the source material. And it's going to run like 52 episodes or something. So apparently that fits very well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to finally seeing the whole story. I'm only familiar with a couple of chapters, which had me intrigued. But yeah, I was like, wait for a good anime of that. So yeah, I'm interested to stick it out to the end this time. It's a good-looking show. This is the one we talked about earlier, the other one by TMS. Mm-hmm. Very crisp visuals, very colorful, very good lighting, very good adaptation of kind of dated early shoujo manga character designs with giant-ass eyes. And they shrink those down a bit and modernize that stuff, and it looks really good. The anime versions of the characters are super cute. Enough to like in here. If like the story summary sounds to, oh my god, this is gonna be totally not my thing at first glance, I would say give it a chance regardless, because this is a more substantial thing than it appears to be. I don't know, John, you I think just from the setup alone, or the basic setup alone, this would already be up your alley, but what do you think about the rest of the show?
Well, I mean, I kind of slept on the 2001 version of this show.
Sounds like that's not a big miss.
Yeah, I didn't realize until looking up just a moment ago that it was animated by Dean, and Dean shows of that era are Fate Stay Night.
Yeah.
But I was always really interested in checking it out, and I just never did. And now I don't have an excuse. So I watched the first couple episodes. I was like, oh, you know what? This seems really cute and interesting, and I'm willing to check out more of it. So yeah. I'm looking forward to watching the rest.
Yeah. Prepare for some emotionally gripping stuff. I can tell you that much. So yeah, great cast, good looking show, and it's entertaining, but there's also more to it. So yeah, I recommend it, and yeah, definitely a keeper. So what's your, well, not your last keeper, because I think we get the last two ones are the same for both of us. So why don't you tell me your next one?
My next pick is Carole Tuesday. So it's been about 50 years since mankind has migrated to Mars, and it's an age where most culture is produced by AI. It's a little too grim of a future. And people are content to be passive consumers, like we are now. There's this girl who is scraping by trying to make a living in the metropolis, Alba City, working part-time and trying to become a musician. Her name is Carole, and she's always felt like something's missing. And there's this other girl who was born into a wealthy family in the provincial town of Herschel City, also dreaming of becoming a musician, but nobody around her understands. She feels like the loneliest person in the world, and her name is Tuesday. A chance meeting brings them together. They want to sing. They want to make music. They feel like they just might have a chance. The two of them they might only create a tiny wave, but that wave will eventually grow into something larger. This show's fucking beautiful.
Yes.
Because it's done by, say it together with me, Bones.
So I was about to say, wait, Shinichiro Watanabe? Wait a second, I'm not prepared.
Oh my god. I saw Shinichiro Watanabe's name on this and I was like, yeah, I gotta check this out. Because, you know, he has this clear focus. This idea in his mind for all of the shows that he works on, like Cowboy Bebop, Kids on the Slope, Space Dandy, Samurai Champloo. And, you know, the other thing is you can tell, you know, he's a big fan of Western music because of the music, because of the compositions and the influences in them. And that surely comes through in this show as well, because they start name dropping all sorts of, you know, Western musicians as well, like Cyndi Lauper, Bruce Springsteen. I mean, the episode names or song names, it's like Cowboy Bebop all over again. Speaking of which, the currency in the universe of Carole Tuesday is Wulongs, so there you go.
Yeah, it's the same universe as Space Dandy and Cowboy Bebop, I guess.
But yeah, all of those little things aside, the show is a fucking looker. The music is great. It's just, I want to see how Carole Tuesday hit the big time and become stars, baby. It just, it looks and feels so incredible. And I just wish it weren't a Netflix show so it were more easily accessible for the Western audience.
Yeah, that's a giant bummer. Fuck Netflix, because nobody is going to talk about the show because they put it in jail until it's completely aired, I guess, to give it a dub or whatever. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think this is a fantastic looking show, great character designs, great fucking world design, like from the smallest science fiction machinima thing in there to like the big city landscapes. Everything is so fucking thought through and like well designed, and it's just, yes, some really capable people were working on this and had a good idea to how this show should look and how it should feel like and how it should sound like. And it's always nice to witness such a complete vision in animated form, and it's great. It's a sight to behold. It sounds fantastic. I think the first song in the first episode, it's sung by different people than, you know, the Japanese voice actors for the girls, right?
Yeah. Their singing voices are definitely not their voice actresses. It's also a case of Watanabe bringing in amazing musical talent with this Canadian musician who goes by the name Maki. So, you know, more Western representation in the anime world. That's great. Yeah. I mean, we don't have too many chances to talk about, you know, like Western composers on the show, except for, you know, what was the one you're talking about the other night? I know I brought up that
Kevin Penkin.
Kevin
made the soundtrack to Made in Abyss and right now Shield Hero.
Yeah, and like Harukana Receive was worked on by a Swedish DJ named Rasmus Faber. So yeah, the world of anime is finally starting to expand. Which is great.
Good stuff. And this is definitely one of the shows you should check out.
Yes.
The only problem is you would have to resort to piracy right now or wait until it's on Netflix. So if you want to join the conversation, if there is any, you probably have to find your good old torrents, I guess. But yeah, it's gonna end up on Netflix eventually. And if it does, and if you if you don't want to resort to illegal means, then yeah, definitely check that out once it's out, because it's great stuff. And yeah, we got one more.
We do, and
that is a Demon Slayer. And it's the new show by Ufotable. Ufotable. Is it Ufotable or is it Ufotable? I don't know.
I always said Ufotable, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, Let's stick with that. So it's a new show by Ufotable, and who are probably most well known for the recent Fate Stay Night adaptation, also Fate Zero, and that also means this is probably a good looking show. You would be right in assuming that because this fucking stellar looking show. But what is it about? It's about a young boy named Tanjiro who lives with his in the mountains with his family. And one day when he leaves to sell coal in the town, his whole family gets killed by man-eating demons. Well, almost his whole family, because his younger sister Nezuko gets turned into a demon herself. And when Tanjiro fights a demon hunter who tries to kill Nezuko, she protects her brother from harm, which convinces the demon hunter to let the two join the ranks of the demon hunters. And yeah, Tanjiro does that because I think he wants to find and kill the demon who turned Nezuko, which I believe is the only chance for her to be human again. I don't know if that's how it works or it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I'm not. They kind of glossed over that, but
yeah, but that's the setup. Sounds pretty standard, but the characters are great and the visuals are fucking amazing already. And I heard it's gonna get crazier later on. The OP looks fantastic as well. And yeah, it's surprisingly funny for a show with such a dark setup. Like the first episode was completely serious, like there were not any jokes in that one. But the second episode had some pretty goddamn funny moments that I didn't see coming. I was like, okay, I can get behind that. That's interesting. And Ufotable are probably the only ones who know how to properly use CG in anime, or one of the few studios who do, because they do a really good job in this one. And yeah, this is, if you wanna like have something to watch just for the visuals alone this season, besides Sarazanmai, I guess, and Carole Tuesday, of course, I'd say this is the one.
Definitely.
Demon Slayer looks fantastic. And, you know, it's standard shonen stuff. I think this is actually based on a Shonen Jump manga. This is probably going to be a straightforward action, horror, fantasy tale. But yeah, judging from the OP, this is going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, looks really great. So yeah, I'm definitely going to follow that one. That's completely up my alley. And I can't wait. I think it's being directed by the same guy who did the adaptation for Taste of Hysteria. And yeah, that show was not great, but it looked fantastic. So there's at least that. And since this is based on actual manga, I don't have that much worries when it comes to the story. I don't think there will be many big surprises in here, but seems to be competently told and well paced. So yeah. This is definitely probably an easily digestible show, and very entertaining. So yeah, that's it for the sneak peek this time around. Enough of shows that are promising. We'll see how many actually of the babies will stick with at the end. But yeah, we got enough keepers too, even if one of them underwhelmed us. But yeah, there you go. These are our impressions, and maybe you find some inspiration to which shows to check out this season. And then we'll talk about those we kept with again when we get to the actual reviews. Speaking of which, time to get to our first review of Winter Season 2019. All right, time to be a mob again, I guess.
I mean, your life is your own.
Yes, that is the theme of this season, or I guess of the show as a whole. Very prominently featured in the OP of this season, which, if you thought that to be impossible, but which is at least on par with the OP of the first season, it might even suppress it. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that a bit longer. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, John? You are the OP expert.
As soon as in the first moment when that bass line hit, I was like, yo, let's go. I honestly feel like they went above and like the first season of Mob Psycho was already fucking crazy. They went above and beyond this time around. Like, before we get too deep in, I remember saying to you, about 11 episodes into the show, are they going to have enough budget left for the last two episodes? Spoilers, they did. They very much did.
Yeah. I don't know where they got it from, but again, probably more related to the capable people working on this. Yeah. So, as with all our continuous season reviews by now, this will be more of a loose but more in-depth chat about the actual season of both seasons, and thus there will be spoilers for both seasons. I mean, if you haven't checked out Mob Psycho 100 at all yet, check out our review of the first season, which is episode 17 of our show. Wow, that seems a long time ago.
Wow.
But yeah, check out that one. There are no spoilers in there, but this time, to adequately talk about everything we want to talk about, spoilers are going to run rampant for both seasons. I mean, if you haven't checked out the first season, why would you listen to a review of the second one? That seems kind of, yeah. And if you checked out the first season and liked it, you probably already watched the second season as well. So this is you're probably here because you want to hear our thoughts on that second season, but probably know already what happened in that season. So yeah, just be aware of that. I always want to give that short disclaimer for if there are some people in there who are not aware of that. We don't want to spoil anything for you, but we definitely will. So there you go. So yeah, last season wrapped up with Mob trying to rescue his brother Ritsu from the claws of, Claw, the organization of espers who part of the organization of espers who try to establish a new world order and take over the world with their esper powers. And yeah, basically that's that. And he and his mentor / con artist friend, employer Reagan, basically with the help of a few others, wiped that headquarters of one of the subsections of Claw clean, basically annihilated the whole gang. Well, left them alive, of course, but gave them a severe beating. And yeah, so much so that those are not really allowed into Claw anymore, as it seems, because they make a reappearance in this season, actually. Now, everyone on the side of the good guys, pretty late in the season's runtime, they join forces with Mob and the gang again. And yeah, that's how that ended. That's how the first season ended. The show always was more about, already in its first season, more about the character development than about straightforward plot. Because plot-wise, there's not that much happening in both the first and the second season. Like, the first season is like, okay, Mob works for Reagan, and they come across some spirits, and Mob has to exorcise them, and there are some hijinks here and there, and characters are introduced, and then Claw takes Ritsu hostage because they mistake him for Mob, and yeah, then they try to bust Ritsu out, and that's that. That's basically the whole plot of the first season. And the second season is kind of the same. We got a bit of hijinks here and there, and some random spirit stuff with Mob and Reagan, and then got the head of Claw trying to take over the whole world, or at least the city at first. And Mob and the gang is trying to stop him. And that's that. That's the plot of the second season. There's not much difference there. The spice, so to speak, is in the characters and the character development. And that's some spicy stuff, because that's real good. Like, I think the high point of the first season was when the setup is Mob is this youth who is very gifted with his psychic powers, with his spiritual powers, his ESP powers. Is that ESP powers? Is that like too much? Should it be ES powers? I'm not sure.
I mean, it's like people saying ATM machine.
Okay.
Let's think of it that way.
I don't even know what the ESP really stands for. I just know it stands for psychic
extrasensory.
Oh, okay. All right, there you go then. But yeah, so he's very gifted when it comes to those powers, but for many different reasons, he was very afraid to use them and really get like acquainted with them, because those powers are enhanced by emotional states, by very like clear emotional states, and those can be positive and negative. So one of the key moments in Mob's life was when his brother Ritsu got attacked by bullies, and Mob got so upset that he lashed out with his powers and also hurt his brother in the process unintentionally. And it was one of those moments that like made him, oh god, these powers are dangerous and they shouldn't be used against people, and I should control my emotions to not let those powers seep out and get out of control. So he has a very negative stance on his abilities, on his powers, and he thinks they are not worth much because they're only dangerous, and people relying on them are like, okay, this is you haven't really achieved that power yourself. You were born with it, or something like, or in that regard. And Mob is someone who would rather work for something and achieve that stuff, and he's willing to do so. He joins the Body Improvement Club in the first season to bulk up, to be more physically appealing and capable, and to get a girlfriend and stuff like that. He's willing to work for his goals. He's willing to work for stuff. He just thinks that his psychic powers are not part of that. And he has them, he uses them, especially in his work, but he doesn't consider them something great and more on the dangerous side. You're right. So the first season is basically about him coming to grips with that his powers are actually worth something, and that he should be proud of them, and that he should use them to at least protect people in his life and learn to control them for one reason or another. The high points in the first season are always about Mob like coming to grips with an emotion of his that he hasn't really, let's say, internalized or hasn't really confronted yet in his life, because he hasn't been forced to do so, or whatever reason, didn't want to, be it anger, be it sadness for one reason or another, some, loneliness, all that stuff. Like I said, the high points of the first season are him being confronted with his emotions like that, the powers, the burst in power that results from that, and him realizing, yeah, okay, this is what this means. This is what I have to think about. This is part of my life, and if I want to control my power, I also need to understand these emotions and have to learn to live with them. And I think one of my personal highlights is the finale of the first season, where Mob learns that he can rely on other people too, that he doesn't have to shoulder the whole burden himself of living this life as this powerful, psychically gifted being. And that is when he is confronted by a very powerful member of Claw and, has to fight him. He doesn't really want to. He doesn't want to use his power against people, and he is afraid to hurt them, but he must use it, and he's pushed into a corner. And Reagan is there, and he is willing to stand in front of Mob and say, no, you don't have to do this. You can run away. You should run away. You are a kid. This is stuff that should be handled by adults, and I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to get in the way and shoulder that burden for you. And it's one of the moments where Mob is experienced one of his emotional high stage, which is gratefulness, because he's so grateful that Reagan lifts that burden from his shoulders and is like, no, you can rely on me. I'm the adult. You are a kid. You don't have to do stuff like that. And basically transfers all of his power to him, his 100% power, which is always this gimmick of the show, the show counting down or up, so to speak, to 100. Once Mob's emotional state reaches 100, his full power is unleashed. And yeah, so he gives all his powers to Reagan, and Reagan is doesn't really understand it, but is able to just hand wave all the attacks from the claw guy and just fucking punch him into the ground. And is really nonchalant about the whole thing, which is great, because Reagan is a fantastic character, probably the best character in the show. And yeah, I don't know. What was your favorite moment in season 1?
I mean, that one is pretty great. It's probably the big highlight where Reagan just sort of says, "Hey, you don't got to do this," and just takes the reins for a moment or two. I mean, let's not make any bones about it. Bones. Reagan he's a shit.
Well,
he's a con artist, but
yeah, He's also a very good guy.
We do see that he is, a good guy, and he's willing to look out for Mob. But I mean, by the time the second season rolls around, we see him sort of tripping over his words and saying stuff he doesn't mean.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's one of the most interesting things in this season, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, even when he cons people, he lets them believe that they're cursed or something, on their problems stem from them being possessed by spirits, but only because they want to.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to face the fact that their problems are come from a different source. And he's like, okay, I'll roll with that. I'll make you believe that you're cursed, but what you actually need is maybe a good massage and some relaxing or stuff like that. And I will do that. And then, he's actually trying to help the people, but he also doesn't tell them the truth to, let them figure that out for themselves. Like he takes care of them, but he's also being a bit maybe patronizing or condescending without really noticing it. And that comes into play, like I said, later in the season.
I feel like there was a clear divide in the themes between the two seasons, because the first one was definitely all about being responsibility in reference to Mob's powers, and trying to keep a not really a lid on it in the sense of their secret or whatever, but trying to keep a lid on their use, and trying to be safe and smart about it, and that you shouldn't use your power. Obviously, every show is going to be like, you shouldn't use your powers for evil, but this is definitely about that. Just either not using them for evil, or just why are you using them at all when you don't really need them to get by?
And especially don't use them against people for good or bad. Like, Mob is very insistent about that. He does not like that stuff at all. And yeah, that's what the first season is about. That's very interesting and great to look at. Like, again, the first season was already a visual feast. And so all the psychic battles and everything look fantastic. A lot of Sakuga moments. Great stuff. And yeah, then this season starts basically like the first one did. We got Reagan and Mob handling some cases. Mob making some progress when it comes to his social interactions. Like, I mean, he is already like big friends with the people from the Body Improvement Club, which also leads to a fantastic fucking scene in the show that just got me jumping up from the couch and yelling, "Fuck yeah!" Which is related to those guys. They were already super great in the first season, but they are just as great in the second as well. But yeah, he is still got like the hots for his childhood friend Tsubomi, which I gotta say, I mean, the show this season teases some development in that regard, but there really isn't too much. I mean, she appears here and there, but it's not like, and there's like one scene at the end of the first episode that makes you think, oh, okay, they're gonna go somewhere with this season. But then they don't, which was one of the things that I was like, oh, okay, I expected them to do something with that. But with those two, they don't really. It's like, that was just weird setup that didn't get paid off. But it's not like that is a huge detriment to the season, because the main focus is on the visual components, of course, but also the relationship between Mob and Reagan, which always was the most interesting thing about this show. So that's fine. But yeah, that's how it is. And yeah, so we got Mob finally getting more accustomed to himself, getting more self-confident of his abilities, getting better at exercising. Like he does a run with Reagan together and holds himself pretty well. And yeah, you see that he actually gets somewhere, and everyone notices it, and everyone is like, yeah, Mob, you're a cool guy, we like you and everything. And yeah, you see him growing up slowly and becoming an adult and becoming a person of his own, which is very much the theme of the show. and the things that result from that. But yeah, so we got that in the beginning, scenes of showing Mob becoming more confident in himself, in his capabilities, everything, and him and Reagan taking on random jobs. There's one in the very first two episodes where it's like him and Reagan hunting down this urban myth creature, the Dragger, and trying to take him out, and they meet another psychic there and everything, and then they try to exorcise this young woman who seems to be possessed by a really evil spirit. And that's one of the highlights, like this 2 or 3 episodes, I think, that mini arc revolves around. And that's a highlight because we finally run into a character, or it's the first time we went to a character that seems to be on equal footing with Mob, who seems to be really capable of hurting Mob and being a danger to him. And he pulls Mob into like a fantasy world created by him, like in the mind of the girl that is possessed. And yeah, that's probably some of the most emotionally gripping stuff, because so we already said that Mob is most powerful when he draws from pure emotion. And since he was afraid to use his powers or considered them a useless burden, and therefore suppressed his emotions most of his life, he is a bit inexperienced with handling like these big bursts of unfamiliar emotions overcoming him. And he's also a bit naive, a bit being an understatement, I guess. So it's easy for the bad guy in that mini arc, this kind of dead guy, evil killer guy, Mogami, who possesses this girl, to manipulate Mob when he tries when he invades like the girl's minds and tries to exorcise him from there. To manipulate him initially by putting Mob into a scenario that builds up negative emotions like despair. And yeah, that Mob gets overwhelmed by this, and he can't handle his powers anymore, and he can't, at least initially, he can't compete with Mogami. He can't stand up to him because Mogami completely controls his worlds and the people in it. And Mob can't handle that. He's not emotionally stable enough, or not confident enough, I guess. Like, he doesn't know how to react with people reacting the way they do. And that shows that Mob, even with all of his power, still needs guys like Reagan or Dimple, who helps him in this case, to stay his course instead of being overwhelmed occasionally. I mean, the same thing happened at the end of season 1, like we mentioned, when Reagan helped him out and said, "Okay, you can rely on me. This is my job as an adult. You don't need to shoulder all of these emotions and all of this confusing stuff by yourself. I'm here to guide you." And Dimple does the same for him in this particular mini arc, in this particular set of episodes, which was pretty cool because Dimple is also a very cool thing. Him and Reagan are kind of like, they're both a bit of shits, but also good guys deep down, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why they clash so often, is because they are so alike one another.
Yeah, they recognize each other in each other. It's like, God damn it. I don't like that guy because it's me. That's a very important part, and Mogami makes a short appearance later in one of the last episodes for a kick-ass moment, but he might also come back to be an important part in a later season. I don't know if we'll get a later season, another season, but yeah, he is definitely on a power level. He's very, very dangerous, and he's very capable of holding his ground against Mob. And this is kind of a first, because every time you think that someone appeared in the first season that would be like a danger to Mob, they just are not. Like, Mob is such a fucking powerhouse that, with a flick of a finger can beat them into the ground if he wants to. And the problem, the conflict, the emotionally engaging stuff is that he doesn't want to most of the time, or he maybe can from an emotional point of view. But this time around, like, Mogami is one of the first that, even when Mob goes all out and everything, he's capable, at least for a while, to resist him. It's good stuff. Like, and this is one of the most visually impressive episodes out there. Is episode 5, where those two clash. It's fucking insane. Like this fucking weird fantasy realm that they battle in and just go all out. And I think it's the same guy who did the finale of season 1. I forgot to look up his name, but I think it's the same animation director for that episode. That's what I heard.
Yeah,
and yeah, it shows.
Seko.
It shows. It's fantastic stuff. Like, if you want to pick out one episode for the season, it's not the only great looking episode in the season, but it's definitely one of the best looking ones. And yeah, that was just, wow. That's movie quality. I don't know what else to tell you. It's like, that's the stuff you usually don't only see in anime movies, but it's just so detailed and so ridiculous and so fluid and everything. It really makes you wonder, how are people capable of bringing this, of drawing stuff like that, of making stuff animate like that, of making that appear on a screen on such a consistent basis. It's crazy. It's wild to me. Like, this is one of the reasons I watch anime, is like this kind of visual spectacle, because that's not something you can do in live action.
No.
I firmly believe that.
I mean, everything about both seasons of this show is just Bones being as wildly creative as they possibly can. I'm pretty sure I said this before, but some of their other shows like My Hero Academia, we both love, and it's great and it's well executed and produced. But come on, Mob Psycho is like so many steps above it in terms of just creativity in its presentation. It's fucking wild. It's great.
Yeah, because they can let really loose, not only like putting all their effort and potential into those scenes, but actually, because the character designs are more loose, the world is more loosely structured. It's more crazy. Like My Hero Academia, for all its bells and whistles, is pretty straightforward designed show. It's very clear. It's very crisp. It's got straight lines and everything, like very, very straightforward character designs, very clear-cut character designs. And this show, just from the way it looks, even on the still page, looks so much more like open and loose and experimental than My Hero Academia does, that it also, is reflected when those big animation moments happens. Like that. You can have weird colors and shape mix with each other. You can go super wild, and because it will not... because it looks the way it does on the still page, it will not alienate people when it looks as crazy as it does once, the actual animation gets going. And that is reflected in the comedy as well, and, in a bunch of other weird stuff in the show visual-wise. I remember the scene from the first season where Mob, where we introduced to Tsubumi, and Mob talks about her, and all the characters around her, all the girls around her, have vegetables as heads, because Mob doesn't care about them. Like, he only has eyes for her, so all the other characters might just as well be fucking cucumbers or tomatoes, because he only has eyes for her. So that totally works. And you would be like, what the fuck? What is this? Like, if My Hero Academia had a scene like that would work. No, that would be totally alien. That wouldn't fit with the design of that show. But in Mob Psycho, it totally works. Like, the OP already does a really good job at introducing you to that crazy world, and the show sticks with that. And in that way, even if it's like totally wild and loose, it's very consistent, and it is in both seasons. But yeah, let's get back to the characters. So, you talked about Reagan being a little shit, but, like I said, there are many moments where it comes through that he's also a good guy. Like, for example, there's a scene in the second episode, I think, where they're little assholes, like, being mean to a dog, and he, like, chases them away and is nice to the dog and gives him a bath, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because they drew all over the dog's face. But
exactly.
Don't do that to the dog.
No, don't do that to the dog. Don't be assholes to dogs. I'll punch you. If you're mean to cats too. I don't like people being mean to pets. Anyway, so yeah, Reagan apparently doesn't either, and that already shows me he's a good guy. But there are other things too, like after the Mogami job, he doesn't even claim the reward for exercising Mogami because he doesn't consider it a successful job, since a bunch of people got hurt in the process. And if he doesn't feel like he earned the money, even with whatever shady method he might have used or usually uses, he won't take it. And I think that speaks for him being a good guy. And yeah, that's another aspect. Like, the show is really good at endearing us to characters that maybe in another show you would like immediately write off as being like at least the only comedic relief character or the random jerk or stuff like that. And Reagan is one of those guys who has layers. But he is not like this great stand-up guy all the way through. And that also, even if it might be unintentionally, comes through on an emotional level. Because like we said, Mob grows in this season. I mean, he already grew in the first season. He came to grips with some of his emotional, shortcomings, I guess, and realized some things about himself. But that gets progressed even further in this season. And he becomes more of his own person. And the thing is, Reagan doesn't really realize that in the beginning. And that is a problem and makes those characters butt heads at the midpoint of this season. He just doesn't realize, doesn't pay attention that Mob is slowly becoming more confident and more of an adult. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's being an ass to him, on a basic level, but he tries, it comes from a good place because Mob is very important to him. Mob is like his treasured pupil and it's very important, like I said, it's very important to him. So he tries to protect Mob from other people taking advantage of Mob. But at the same time, he is taking advantage of Mob as well without really noticing it, right? He's using him for the jobs. He is demanding his full-time attention, even when he is around friends, when he's around in school or something. Like Mob is supposed to come running when Reagan calls him. And he kind of expects that from him because like, hey, okay, you can do this stuff. I can't. I'm relying on you, but also you can rely on me and I will help you get around in the world because I know you're pretty naive, you are kind of antisocial, you don't know how to handle certain emotions, and I'll help you with that. I'll show you what the good and the bad things about this world are. And I want to protect you because I like you. And, it's like I said, it's kind of coming from a good space, but not all of it is like altruistic. And yeah, he is probably a bit possessive because Mob is kind of his only friend, his only real friend, as we learn in one of the episodes. And maybe that's also why he has trouble believing that Mob is able to make friends who have like a different social standing than him, and that other people than maybe then Reagan or Mob's family care for him. Like there's this scene where Mob is hanging out with the guys from the Body Improvement Club and I think some other classmates, and they have lunch and everything, and Mob is really happy. And it's like, he made friends with these people, even though they're like the Body Improvement Club are like these super popular, muscular guys. Like they're super handsome, and the other people in the group are more popular than Mob as well, I guess. And Mob wants to hang out with them, but Reagan calls them, and when Mob tells Reagan about these guys, Reagan is like, "Oh no, these guys only take advantage of you. They don't really like you. You can't see that, right? You're too young, you're too naive, you're a kid, you don't realize that." What Reagan hasn't realized at this point is that Mob has learned to judge people better than he was before, and that he realizes that these people really are his friends, and that he realizes that Reagan is taking advantage of him. And that leads to basically a separation between the two, because Mob is not willing to dedicate his entire life just to Reagan's desires. And Reagan doesn't see that coming. And he thinks initially when Mob says, "Okay, I'm leaving, I got other things to do," that Mob is just joking. That's just a phase. And yeah, that's a problem because then he's forced to fend for his own, and that doesn't necessarily go that well, at least up to a certain point. He's not willing to let Mob make his own decisions. It's kind of a nice twist on the ending of season 1, where like the big emotional climax was that Reagan convinces Mob that he is too young to shoulder, so much responsibility, and that he should let an adult handle the dangerous things. But now, since Mob is growing up and is learning that he wants to make his own decisions, growing up also means realizing that your role models, like your parents, siblings, and in Mob's case, Reagan, are not gods, just people. And that you shouldn't always take everything they say at face value. And the more you come into adulthood, you need to learn to free yourself from their protective umbrella and become your own person. And both Mob and Reagan have to deal with that in the season, and that is already what the show's OP told us. Gave us a not so subtle hint in repeating the phrase "your life is your own," and that is what Mob has to learn. That is also what Reagan has to learn. That he can't always rely on Mob to make his business successful, to lead a happy life. When they separate and Reagan tries to stand on his own feet for a while, he tries to do it the same way he has always done it. Be the con artist, be the guy, be the shithead, kinda. And that works for a while, and then it spectacularly backfires. And it's harrowing to watch in a way. It's also funny. But
it was like, oh no, what did you do? It was... I don't know how to describe exactly how I felt during that episode, but it's like, what have you gotten yourself into, my dude?
Yeah, it's it's harsh. When things are the worst, Mob helps him out in a way, and they become friends again, of course. I mean, that was bound to happen. That is not really surprising, I mean, the way the character acts. But Reagan had to realize some things for himself. In that moment, he realized that Mob was his only real friend, that he relied on him too much, that he needed to turn his life around, that he had to reflect on why he was actually what he was doing. Like, how did he come to be like this con spirit artist guy? Why was he in this? What was the reason for doing that? And if Mob hadn't taken life into his own hands and said, no, I'm done with this, we're gonna be apart for a while, I'm gonna do my own thing, then Reagan maybe would have never done that. And that was a very important moment in those characters' lives. It's like, okay, no, we rely on each other all the time. We need to stand on our own, both for their own personal growth. I mean, Reagan is a lot older than Mob, but still hasn't, or let's say, has faced a standstill in some regards of his emotional development and when it comes to certain aspects of his life. He has been in a rut when it comes to that. And yeah, that moment in the show where those two clash with each other makes them, Mob has already realized certain things that he needs to stand on his own from this point on, but Reagan still needs to realize it. And Mob forcing him to do that by just leaving him is one of the best and emotionally rewarding, or leads to one of the best and emotionally rewarding scenes in this show. We learned that Reagan was about to quit the spirit medium gig. He took it up just, out of boredom and curiosity. He didn't really know where to go with his life. It was like, okay, I guess I do that because I need to pay the bills. But then Mob walked into his life to seek help because he didn't know how to handle his powers. And of course, Reagan, because he didn't believe that Mob really had those powers, fed him a bunch of bullshit. But Mob believed him and gained strength from that, and became more self-confident and able to handle his powers better. So Reagan, even if he was full of shit, helped Mob progress and advance. And that also filled a hole in Reagan's soul, I guess, in Reagan's life that he wasn't aware he had. So that's how those two became so reliant on each other, because they, I guess, completed each other. And yeah, so Mob helped him to become more confident in his business and invest himself into it. And he, on the other hand, was a compass for Mob when he needed one the most, because, he didn't know how to handle his powers and everything and felt confused and lost because of that. Those two needed, there's this great moment where Reagan realizes that's what Mob means to him, and that couldn't have happened if he hadn't had to face all these emotions. And now that Reagan has accepted that Mob has outgrown that version of their relationship, their friendship can also evolve. And it leads like to this great moment where after Mob helping Reagan to convince basically the mass media that he actually has spiritual powers, or at least raise doubt again because they were calling him a fraud, which he is before that. But yeah, then they meet each other on a bridge, and Mob says that he's stuck with Reagan because he realized from the start that Reagan is a good guy deep down. Reagan expects him to say a fraud, like, I knew what you were. Mob starts with, I knew you were from the beginning, you were. And then Reagan, clenches his lips because he expects Mob to say a fraud, but Mob says a good guy. And Reagan tears up, and that's such a beautiful scene. I loved it. There's like that pull at my heartstrings. I went, yes, he is a good guy.
Oh, man, that scene got me so good.
Yeah. It was really nice. I think it was so well executed in terms of music, in terms of visuals, in terms of how it was built up from the very first episode of the first season. That relationship, it was just like, this is the emotional climax of this important relationship, of the most important relationship of the show, of these two characters. And it was done so fucking good. And goddamn it, Bones. What a great job. I really loved that. I think that was one of the most emotionally rewarding scenes in an anime. And it well deserved with how it was set up, how it was built up, and how it was paid off. And yeah, I loved it. And from that moment on, it's basically punches in your faces. Because that's when Claw rear their ugly heads again and attack Mob so it seems, Mob's parents in their homes. Like this, after this emotionally gripping scene, you get like this super dark twist suddenly at the end of episode 8. And it's like, what the fuck? And everything goes down the shitter, so it seems. And then, it's basically for the rest of the show, it's let's fight Claw. Let's fight the top brass of Claw. Who we haven't been introduced. Well, we have been introduced to the big bad, which is Tuichiro Suzuki. We have been introduced to his son already to show in the first season, but Suzuki at the very end saw only, his face and everything. But now he appears on the scene and wants to take over and brought a bunch of muscle with him. Then Mob assembles, Reagan basically, I guess. Some people assemble other, psychics around themselves, and, the former Claw members also come to help them, and then it's like, constant fighting until the end of the show. And it looks fantastic. Like almost every episode is ridiculous Sakuga fest to the extreme. And I don't know which episode. Like I said, episode 5 is one of the best looking ones. But the last 2 or 3 episodes are also ridiculous, just in terms of visuals. It's amazing.
Yeah, from like episode 11 on, it's like, okay, here's the rest of our budget. Let's go.
Yeah. Just fucking go for it. So you had your emotional climax. Now the rest is just good old fun times.
Like the whole 40% meme from Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there are also a few nice emotional moments still left here. We get some good stuff with one of the members of Claw, Serizawa, who Mob clashes with, and Serizawa is basically only used by Tuichiro, by Tuichiro, because Tuichiro realized his potential and pulled him out of his hikikomori existence, and Serizawa is grateful for that and is willing to do anything for Tuichiro because of that, even if it's bad things, I guess. Or he doesn't really question it, I guess. He just follows Toichiro's lead. And I think Mob recognizes his former relationship with Reagan in that. Like, it seems like this Toichiro and Katsuya Serizawa have the same relationship that he and Reagan had before. And if Mob would have let that relationship to continue that way, it maybe would have developed the same way, where Serizawa is basically Toichiro's slave, kinda, and only used because of his potential, because he's so gifted when it comes to psychic powers. So he is basically Mob as Mob was before. And now Mob is as a stage in his life where he can actually say, no, dude, I've been there, where you are is bad, and you need to get out of that relationship. You need to get out of that stage in your life. And you can You are capable of that. You just have to want to. And maybe you still need to rely on other people to help you with that right now, so you can grow past that, like I did. And yeah, that's great. And it is, again, a nice payoff for an earlier development in the show. It doesn't really get like played out super long or super extensively, like very short scenes, but they speak for themselves, so it works in my opinion. They didn't really need to do a super long build up for that. And it's just like, it's not really necessary for Mob's development in the show anymore, because they already had hit that big emotional climax. But it's a nice payoff. Like, it's a nice icing on the cake, I would say. For, okay, this is where Mob is now. That's great. And he can only be that guy now because of the steps he has taken and of the people in his life that he has relied on that helped him to get to that point. That's nice.
I think that's sort of a neat turning point for the show and its themes, because it sort of goes from being about like self-identity and assertiveness more into these ideas of like empathy and forgiveness, and those are very, you know, strong ideas later on in this season, and I feel like they're all really well executed and delivered on.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, then we got the big clash, and Mob facing up against Toichiro, who is just, you know, mesmerized by Mob's power, and that someone can contest with him on max level, and that's what all he strives for. Like, all he is interested in is power. I think he's another phase of Mob, I guess, or if Mob would have looked at his powers differently. Like, he's kind of the negative opposite Mob. What if Mob would have like taken full control of his psychic power and considered himself to be like the best and the most powerful guy ever? Like, he's the most like he's the
logical extreme.
Yeah, the logical extreme of that. He's basically one step further than what Teriki was before he met Mob. Because he also considered himself to be like this very special being because he had psychic powers. And Ritsu also was in danger to become that at some point. But Toichiro is that. Like, he considers himself to be above all other humans because he got these powers, and he doesn't care about anyone who doesn't, you know, match his power and everything. And all he wants is more power. And Mob is like, well, no, that's not what is important in life at all. Fuck you. And he's willing to show him, even with his own weapons, and fight fire with fire, but also on an emotional level, which is how he bests him eventually. It's not by pure power, I guess, but because he is willing to stay with Toichiro once he goes full berserk and to contain his power. He's willing to risk it all because of that, just for Toichiro not to be alone in that state. And that is what rescues them, I guess. And rescues the city to an extent. I feel like, despite all the great Sakuga, I think the emotional climax of the show was more realized in its first season. Like, where Mob realized he didn't have to shoulder all his problems on his own. Here it feels like we already had the biggest payoff, the biggest climax, the biggest finale at the midpoint of this show.
Yeah,
not visually wise, but emotionally wise.
I agree that, you know, because later on it just sort of becomes a reflection of himself in other characters, and seeing, you know, like we were just saying, hey man, I've been there. You don't have to still be there. And just, you know, again, these ideas of empathizing with the characters and trying, you know, get them to, you know, you gotta, you know, come down off of the perch that you've made for yourself and realize that, you know, you don't have to be this way. You can just, you can hang with all the rest of us. It's all right.
Yeah. It's like, I was that, I could have been that. I understand it, so I'm trying to get through to these people and show them my point of view because I've been there, or I could have been there, and I can relate to them. And like you said, I feel empathy for them. Here it feels like we already had, at the midpoint, when it comes to the emotionally rewarding part of the stuff, it feels like Mob verbalizing that he intends to take his life into his own hands. From now on is a nice bow on his arc, but I feel like he has already acted on that mantra for most of the back half of the season. So when he says it like at the very end, it's like, yeah, that's nice you saying that, but you already showed us that you are willing to do that. You didn't really have to spell it out. And it's not like this is like, oh my God, now this is the moment of realization, of self-realization. No, that moment already came for you in the first like third of the season. And for Reagan, it came at the midpoint. And now it's just you telling other characters that you have become this different person. And a more adult person, a more self-realized person. It's not you actually becoming that anymore. And thus, it's cool to look at, and it's fun, and it's nice. And like I said, it's a nice bow on the whole thing. It's pretty, but it's not like the most emotionally rewarding stuff already happened in the show. So the finale of this, while it looks fucking amazing, is not as emotionally gripping, I'd say, as was the finale of the first season. Which doesn't mean that this season is like inferior to the first season. Not at all. It's just like, instead of being a steady climb, it's more like we got this climb, then we got like this big high point at the midpoint, and then it evens out, I would say. At the end of the season, I cannot say anything more than this was fucking fantastic. I loved every second of season 2 of Mob Psycho 100. We even get a fucking payoff for all the stupid broccoli imagery that was also in the first OP. I did not expect that. That was fucking amazing.
Yeah, man.
That was great. It's just like, holy shit, okay. But damn, everything in the season is fantastic. Like from the fun, standalone comedic episode, more comedic focused episodes, to Mob's developments, to Reagan's developments, their big moment of self-realization, of becoming different people, from the extreme Sakuga moments, from everything that this show has to offer. It's just, this is a fucking amazing season, a fucking amazing show. And if you have not watched it for some reason, what are you doing? I think it's over here. It's on Netflix right now. So go watch that. For the rest of the people, it's on Crunchyroll everywhere, I think.
Crunchyroll and Funimation now. They just added the dub of the first season to Funimation now, I believe yesterday or today. So there you go.
Yeah. So this is one of the shows I now count among one of my absolute favorites of all time. I think it's the same for you, John, probably.
I remember back when the first season of One Punch Man was airing, there was someone who ran a poll on Twitter, which show is better, One Punch Man or Mob Psycho? And back then, One Punch Man won by a landslide. The same person posed the same question during the second season of Mob Psycho, and the opinion has shifted.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Oh, it will shift even more after that second season of One Punch Man, I guess.
Oh, man. But
which is unfair, right?
It's unfair, but I feel like the two shows, they definitely tackle different themes.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'd say
I feel I don't know. If you ask me now which one was better, it's obviously going to be the one that's more fresh in my mind, but Mob Psycho was just it was so well written. The characters were so well realized. Oh, it's so good.
They come from two different places, and have two very different main characters. Like Saitama he's kind of a version of Reagan, but much more straightforward. Like he's not a con artist or anything. He just, like I said, he is a hero for fun. He does that because he likes it. He loves being a hero, and now he has done it long enough that he doesn't see anything new anymore and is bored. And that's what troubles him, and that he feels like he has seen everything in life, I guess, and he doesn't know where to go anymore, and he's kind of aimless. But he's already in many ways he's a full-grown person, like on an emotional level as well. That comes through when he is confronted by certain characters. Like there's this big moment in season 1 of One Punch Man where he's confronted by all the fucking people, asshole people who want to hold him responsible for destroying the city. And Mob would have been totally he wouldn't have known what to do with that, because that would have been too emotionally harrowing for him. And Saitama was like, no, fuck all of you, blame the fucking meteor. who was about to lay your city to ashes. I'm not a hero to be recognized. Like I'm not doing that to be well liked or anything. I'm doing that because it's the right thing, and because I like to do the right thing, and because I'm capable of that, and because that's the kind of guy he is. And he is already at that point in his life where he has realized that, and he's very confident about that.
I mean, we saw that when he was fighting. What was the name of the monster? Like the Sea King or whatever.
Yeah.
And he lets unlicensed writer take the credit for it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So and Mob is a completely different person. He still has to, at least over the course of this first 2 seasons, he has to find his way. He has to find out where in general, what his first path in life should be. And Saitama already has taken his first steps, and now after having lived that life for a while, he now is at the crossroads again because he doesn't really know what to do now. So Mobs still he might reach that point as well at certain point, right? After doing his first job or something, and but then again, maybe he doesn't even come to that point because he has already taken different steps towards a different kind of life than Saitama did, I guess. He's just a completely different character. And it's interesting that both those stories are from the same author because they feel like they're coming from a kind of same setup with superpowered people having to deal with the outfall of their big power, but they're vastly different characters, and they speak to different people, I think. So that's maybe the reason why some people are more drawn to Saitama and other peoples are maybe more drawn to Mob as a character because they speak to different kinds of characters, to different emotions, to different emotional states and everything, and to different stages of your own life. I don't know, maybe we as a whole, just in terms of age and everything, can more relate to Saitama to an extent because our high school lives are long past.
Yeah.
But there are other people that maybe can relate to Mob more and to his trials. And I mean, in Mob Psycho, there's also a more aged character like Reagan in there, who maybe is also more relatable to people from our age group. I don't know. That also, that maybe Mob Psycho can give us both. On the other hand, I think One Punch Man says more interesting things about, or does some more interesting analogy stuff when it comes to society in regards to what the heroes in this show are and how society treats heroes and how they act. And I think Mob stays more on Mob Psycho 100 stays more on a personal level, while One Punch Man tries to go a bit broader when it comes to its themes and everything. So yeah, I guess that's the interesting thing. That's why those shows feel pretty different and are both very interesting in their own right, even though they're from the same author. But yeah, hey, if you can garner anything from that outburst of love towards at least the first season of One Punch Man and both seasons of Mob Psycho, it's check out that stuff for yourself. I love the season of Mob Psycho 100. I think the story doesn't need a continuation and works fine as it is. Like, if that is all we get, I know the manga is still running, or I'm pretty sure it is.
The manga apparently ended not long ago, so,
Oh.
There's like 11 chapters after where the season ended, so...
Okay, so we might get a third season after all.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I mean, like I said, Mob hasn't confessed to Tsubomi yet, which always seems to be like this important thing looming in the background. So maybe we'll get that. But I don't know if that is something we need to see. Unless he gets rejected and needs to learn to deal with that, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that can also be a very, emotionally taxing thing in people's lives. So maybe he that needs to happen for him to become a full-grown adult.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be interesting. We'll see if that happens. We'll see if they do something with that, if we get another season. But I think we don't really need it. I think if that is all the Mob Psycho 100 we get in animation form, this the finale of the second season is a good ending point. It's very satisfying, Reagan's and Mob's relationship has been brought to a very satisfying conclusion, or has been developed very well over these 2 seasons. And I think that was the most important part, the most engaging part. So yeah, I think you can do nothing wrong by checking out this show. This is, I can see people maybe not being able to relate to Mob that much, or not as much as maybe to Saitama or something, but I think there's enough to enjoy in this show and how it's handled and how it looks alone that makes it worth a watch. Both seasons, like go and binge it, because it's a short show. Like, it's 2 13-episode seasons. I think there's an OVA somewhere between.
Yeah, that one's centered around Reagan, and I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, me neither. And there's supposed to be a second one coming out soon. So I guess we still got that to look forward to. But aside from that, yeah, this is fantastic 2 seasons of anime that everyone who likes animation or animation in general should watch. It's incredibly well written. It's stunningly animated. The score is also great. So many characters to love in this show. I think you would be severely missing out if you didn't check it out. So go for it. Be a mob. And that is a wrap on the 72nd episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vit.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and some interesting articles linked in our episode release posts. Follow us on Twitter at AnimeBrainFreeze. We tweet regular updates and fun anime-related stuff there. Leave us comments and questions on Facebook and our YouTube channel, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
2 unlikely roommates.
High-flying fun that's a bit confused and unfocused.
And a sports anime icon scores his golden goal.